Breaking news. The first ever American state has officially passed a potential Bitcoin reserve bill into law. Okay, so this is the governor of New Hampshire, and they have just signed a new law allowing our state to invest in cryptocurrency and precious metals. This is incredible. Okay, guys, this is a even more bullish narrative, but I want to talk about the breaking news first. So New Hampshire becomes the first ever state to actually introduce legislation that is signed into law by the governor to say that, okay, we can invest into cryptocurrencies. But it's actually Bitcoin. It's not any cryptocurrencies. If you look into Satoshi Action Fund, which is a think tank that is organizing these the sort of structures for these states and different institutions to be able to actually introduce Bitcoin into their reserves, so on and so forth. They actually draft the legislation and they give it to representatives and they bring it into the Congress of these individual senates, and they get passed through different committees and eventually goes to the desk of the governor of the state. And if the governor likes it, then they pass it on, and therefore they can now invest into Bitcoin in this particular example. So that happened, right? Satoshi Action Fund was able to draft a law for a default, essentially, outline of what a state can do if they want to pass a Bitcoin reserve bill within their individual state. So one of the representatives took this bill, introduced it, and actually now it is passed by the governor. But what does this mean? Is it actually important for the Bitcoin price? Is it actually good, or is it fundamentally unimportant? Well, they can invest 5% of their annual budget, which is taking you into the $300 million range. So every year they can allocate about $300 million. And if you think about it, ETFs put like in a single day, $600 to $1 billion. So it's not a massive sum of money. So in terms of actual capital deployed, it's not really too big. But sentimentally, and from a fundamental approach, it's like an actual American state is going to be able to invest into Bitcoin. They've not done it yet. It's not been done yet, but now they have the approval to do so, and that is great. So the reason why New Hampshire was able to pass it, but Arizona wasn't able to do it, was because, well, New Hampshire is a more fundamentally libertarian state compared to other states. And they are more free markets. They don't have any income tax. So introducing Bitcoin as an investment makes much more sense to them than to a state like Arizona, for example. And unfortunately, I think New Hampshire is going to be one of the only states to have a Bitcoin reserve for a while, because the legislative cycle is over in most American states. So the council that gets together, these chambers and committees that get together to discuss law and legislation, the legislative cycle of them doing that and coming together is unfortunately now over. So I think New Hampshire is going to be the first state for a while. I mean, the only state that has a Bitcoin reserve bill passed for a while, and then other states would follow in the future. Just look out for states that are more libertarian and more accepting of free market policies, because they would be more likely to pass a Bitcoin reserve bill. So in summary, it doesn't matter so much in terms of price action. Like, is this going to cause anything to the Bitcoin price? No, because the amount of capital that they can potentially buy, they've not bought anything yet, so that they can potentially buy is very tiny. But fundamentally, from a sentimental and fundamental approach, obviously it's incredible that an American state would be able to buy Bitcoin. And it's Bitcoin because they're only able to invest in any digital asset, so top tier digital asset that has a market cap of over $500 billion. And today, that's only Bitcoin. So technically, it is a Bitcoin reserve, not a cryptocurrency reserve. So I just wanted to tell you that piece of breaking news. I think it's pretty important. In June, obviously, we have the working group, the crypto working group, led by AI and crypto czar David Sachs. They're going to be delivering a report to President Trump to tell them in June, okay, this is the budget neutral way to accumulate Bitcoin. And then Trump will have the power to do something about it and see if America can accumulate Bitcoin beginning of June. So fundamentally, things are looking pretty good for the next 2 months. Obviously, global liquidity is also increasing. So I am very, very bullish for the next 2 months for Bitcoin. Right now, from a technical analysis perspective, we're in this sort of bump and runny pattern. I just don't want to see us breaking below the line of support that we have currently on the 4-hourly time frame. Because if we do, unfortunately, this is resembling a bump and run pattern, and this would take Bitcoin into the 88.5 region. If we're lucky, 90.5, 91K. But we don't want to break this line of support. If we do, we could be in a bit of trouble in the short term. So what I did to prepare for potentially a bearish scenario is I put all of my positions over on weeks, which you can sign up to weeks using the links down in the description below if you want to trade Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I put all of my existing long positions, which are all in profit, to a stop loss of break even. So all my positions are at break even. And if Bitcoin does decide to break below, I think 1 or 2 of my positions will get stopped out and I'll be able to re-enter them at a cheaper price. So that is what I'm doing to hedge. It's still possible that this is like a ascending bull flag E pattern and we just continue instead. But at the moment, it looks a bit more like a bump and run reversal. So it is possible that Bitcoin comes down to the 88.5, maybe even 87.5 region before continuing to push towards the upside. The macro analysis is also a little bit concerning. I mean, we don't want this to be a lower high. If it is, then that is trouble. So let's pray and hope that this is not a lower high on the daily time frame, because that would suggest a downtrend for Bitcoin, which we do not want. So let's not discuss that for now because it's not confirmed. But if we do see the breakdown, the chances of a macro downtrend will increase, but we'll talk about that if it happens in a future video. Another piece of breaking news is that Jim Cramer said, I don't believe Bitcoin can reach $500,000 per coin, let alone $1 million. That is improbable. Guys, Jim Cramer is the most accurate inverse analyst in the world, meaning whatever he said about any particular asset, the complete inverses happen like 98% of the time. And I'm not making this figure out of my head. Like if you just calculate it, it rounds to, I mean, over 95% accuracy or inaccuracy. So him saying this pretty much guarantees that Bitcoin will eventually hit $500,000 to $1 million, meaning that even if Bitcoin is doing a downtrend on the macro time frame, it's okay because macro, it's going up, and that is all that matters. So those were 2 breaking news. So I said that in June, America would be establishing the reserve. Kevin O'Leary, who's in Dubai, and hopefully I can meet him to interview him. It would be pretty cool to do so. But he is saying that a strategic Bitcoin reserve is not going to happen, which is an interesting take. And look, the thing that I agree with Kevin O'Leary is that whatever we get in June is not going to be what people expect. People are overhyping what will happen in June. I think we're going to get some sort of way to accumulate a little bit of Bitcoin, but to get a proper strategic Bitcoin reserve, we would have to see Senator Cynthia Lummis's Bitcoin bill get passed in Congress. And the truth is, Congress is incredibly polarized. So to get bipartisan support for a massive bill like this will take a lot of effort. And the probability of it getting passed is low, right? It's not like, oh my God, this is going to get passed. But if at any point in America's history, if this bill was to get passed, it would be during Trump's presidency. So we do have the highest odds in American political history for this bill to get passed now. But still, even with that edge of Trump being a crypto president, the probability of it getting passed is low. So yeah, that's why I'm still sticking to the M2 money supply as my main directive for where Bitcoin is going to go. And I'm still sticking to the Bitcoin cycles. And I still believe that Q4 to Q1 of this year, I think Q4 will be the top of Bitcoin and we will top out at around $150 to maybe $180,000 and nothing more. So do be prepared for that scenario. So don't be disappointed if something worse than your expectation happens. Another piece of legislative breaking news is that Senator Cynthia Lummis is urging the Genius, she mentioned that the Genius Act, which is a stablecoin act, if I'm not wrong, is getting closer to pass. Stablecoins are becoming a very popular topic, and we spoke about this in massive detail over on the Moon Show today. I don't like where it's going specifically. Yes, they do have a lot of benefits, but more and more stablecoin competition makes it harder for stablecoins to keep their peg to the dollar. And especially if the Stable Act and the Genius Act passes, then, they're going to have one-to-one transparency reserves. And obviously, none of the stable coins right now have one-to-one reserves. So you're going to find out that a lot of these stable coins are not backed one-to-one, and that will cause them to depeg. And that will reduce consumer interest and consumer confidence. Well, let's see what happens. That's a massive issue that we can dive deep into at a later video. but I'm not too happy with stablecoins at the moment. This was pretty good news. So Eric Balchunas, who we interviewed last week in Dubai, he said that IBIT is getting insane inflows. So IBIT is now in 6th place in terms of how much year-to-date inflows has been into the ETF. It's actually higher than the gold ETF, which is insane because gold's price performance has been remarkable over the past year. We have increased by 48% in one singular year, which is insane for a commodity like gold. Bitcoin has gone up by, in the past, we've gone up by 47%. So actually, guys, that's unbelievable. Hold on a second. Gold has gone up more than Bitcoin in the past year. I'm just checking here on TradingView. I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but when I'm looking at the data now, and in the past year, gold has gone up more than Bitcoin by 0.2%. So even though that is the case, the amount of inflows into the ETFs of Bitcoin has been more than the amount of ETF inflows into gold. And that is impressive. Obviously, Bitcoin is a new asset, so gold has been around for a very long time. The ETF has been around for a while. So it's not too surprising, but you know, guys, gold is gold and Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Yeah, and it's just something to note and something pretty cool, I would say, from when you look at it from a macro lens. Then we got a couple more companies who invested in Bitcoin. There was University of Brown yesterday, Semler Scientific, of course, Michael Saylor bought another $200 million of Bitcoin. And today, Kueller Technologies bought an additional, how much is it? $4 million of Bitcoin. Very, very impressive. There was some news about the national debts. Today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent testified in front of Congress, and he said that the budget is going to be approved, and they're going to increase the budget, because if you look at the amount of maturity in bonds, like if in the next 25 years, the most amount of bond maturities are happening in 2025, and it's $7.5 trillion worth of bonds maturing, meaning the government has to pay around $7.5 trillion. And they have to find a way to refinance that. They have to pull that money out of somewhere. So the way that they're going to do it is by just printing more money, meaning that the M2 money supply, while it's already tremendously high, it's going to go even higher. And that represents monetary debasement, meaning that risk on assets, risk on and also risk off assets will increase tremendously in value. And Bitcoin will be trading at much higher levels in the future. So I don't think it's a bad idea to be keeping Bitcoin in your pocket while the national debt will, continue to skyrocket and monetary debasement will go exponentially, will continue on in an exponential manner. But yeah, that's how the American economy is doing. In 24 hours time, we have the FOMC. Don't expect the rates to be changed. Again, I spoke about it in more detail on the Moon Show, but I'm not expecting a rate cut really until July. I think quantitative easing will kick in Q4 to Q1 of this year, Q1 of 2026. And that's when we're going to get this massive altcoin season. So I think it will happen. There's a chance that altcoins bleed massively one more time before going into altcoin season. That's what happened in 2019 at least. So it is very possible that Ethereum drops to 1.2K before going to $8,000. I wouldn't discount that probability of altcoins bleeding massively again. But remember, they're also at bear market lows, which is putting them at a fair place to invest. Probably not with leverage, but if you're buying it for the next 11 to 10 months, then I think now is a good time to buy into them. But yeah, altcoins could suffer. Bitcoin dominance back to 65%, highest that we've been in a very long time. So yeah, likely that altcoins suffer a bit more before increasing during quantitative easing. This was one of the coolest news that I bumped into. So yesterday, or in fact today, a company called Solana Strategies that, just like MicroStrategy, they're developing products on Solana, whereas MicroStrategy is developing products on Bitcoin, and they have AI products too. So this is a company, like essentially a Solana company, developing products on Solana, but also publicly listed on the Canadian stock market. They were able to get an approval for $500 million of convertible note offerings on their own stock HODL, and they were able to use this capital to buy 122,000 Solana, which is $20 million worth of Solana today. And I think that's incredible. A company that's able to copy MicroStrategy, do exactly what they're doing, but for another layer one, and being able to be publicly listed, get convertible notes and buy into that, main asset, that layer one asset, is, I think, truly phenomenal. We could be seeing this for other cryptocurrencies in the future, other layer ones in the future. I'm super bullish on Solana. We're testing incredible level of support. So if you're looking for one altcoin to buy, apart from Ethereum, I think Solana is looking very, very nice. You have a huge inverse head and shoulder, cup and handle pattern. And my target for Solana in this cycle is actually $500. So Solana is looking fantastic. But one altcoin to avoid is WorldCoin. It's getting almost $1 billion worth of unlocks in the next 6 months. So, I mean, you guys know that WorldCoin is one of the most evil coins in existence. But I'm just telling you, if you're trading it, it's also probably a bad idea to be long on it because they have a huge amount of unlocks coming up in the next 6 months. You saw what happened to Mantra. Mantra had a bunch of unlocks too, and then it went to zero. So be careful of WorldCoin. And the final 2-3 news is that NVIDIA could be adding Bitcoin to their stockpile or to their treasury, which would make a lot of sense because just like Strategy being bullish on Bitcoin and developing Bitcoin products, and Solana being bullish on Solana and developing Solana products and then owning Solana, NVIDIA is a GPU company. And GPUs is what is used to take leverage of the proof of work mechanism and essentially mine for Bitcoin. So it makes so much sense if they did end up buying Bitcoin, but obviously it's not confirmed yet and it's just a rumor, but it would make a lot of sense. Gold is doing tremendously well today. We hit a new all-time high of $3,421 for gold. Unbelievable. And the final piece of information is the following chart. You need to understand that monetary debasement is real. Money loses value so much over time. In fact, the US dollar itself loses value by 8% every year. So if you just funnel your money into things like gold, Bitcoin, Bitcoin ideally, the stock market, you're gonna stop your money losing value by just sitting there. So please, guys, divest your money. Don't stay in cash, and don't allow your money to go to zero by just standing still. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. I know it was a bit of an extensive video. I'll break it down into different timestamps so it's more consumable. But thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you all on the next video very soon. Take care. And as always, guys, bye-bye.